I'm just confirming that we're being streamed, so just bear with me. Okay. Sorry? Okay. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're good to start.
Okay.
Yep.
Recording in progress.
Here we go. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is a hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the Town of Grimsby. I'm first going to do some brief introductions of committee members and staff. So committee members in attendance this evening are Dylan Bailey, Adam Mottershead, Adam, and myself, Kevin Antonides, as chair. We do have a quorum. There are 2 members missing presently. Staff members present this evening are Walter Basic, Assistant Director of Planning, Walter. Michaela Bray, Assistant Secretary Treasurer, Michaela, and Dilhara, Administrative Coordinator, Planning and Building. Welcome. Just going to do some brief announcements before we begin. So live streaming, members of the public are advised that our meetings are live streamed by the Town of Grimsby. Individuals and media may be audibly and or visually recorded during this meeting. As a reminder, all electronic devices are to be in silent mode during a committee meeting. Regarding the procedures themselves or the meeting, for the purpose of the Zoom meeting, applicants will be placed in the waiting room until your application is heard. The purpose of the application and relevant correspondence will be heard, following which the applicant will be given the opportunity to address the application. Any person concerned with the application will then be given an opportunity to speak. At the conclusion of the discussion, the committee will render a decision and advise of any applicable conditions. Copies of the decisions will be mailed to the applicant or agent and to any other person who files a written request. To request a copy of the decision, please email Michaela Bray, Secretary Treasurer, at mbray@grimsby.ca. The applicant, the Town of Grimsby, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons, and certain public bodies have the right to appeal either the decision itself or the conditions of consent to the Ontario Land Tribunal, the OLT, within 20 days of the date of giving notice under subsection 17 is completed for consent application, and within 20 days of the date of decision for a minor variance application. Specified persons and certain public bodies include public utilities, but do not include an individual or community association. So everyone present will be given an opportunity to comment on the application being heard. Please address your comments and questions through the chair. Each participant will be provided 5 minutes to speak. Each participant may speak only once. If you hear your comment presented by someone else, please do not duplicate the remarks. And when you're called, we ask that you state your name and address for the record. Agencies commenting on applications may request that certain conditions be imposed. Voicing objections to these conditions will not adversely affect the committee's decision. All members of the committee have viewed the properties on the agenda tonight and are familiar with the lands that are subject to the applications. So first is the disclosure of pecuniary interest. Does any members of the committee have a pecuniary interest in the matters before us this evening? No, and I have none. There's no request for withdrawal or adjournment on these? No. Okay, the first item is the item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. They've been circulated. Are there any questions or comments about the minutes? I'm just going to scroll my screen through here to see Adam and Dylan. No. Then do I have a mover and a seconder? Adam, seconded by Dylan. Thank you. So motion resolved that the minutes of the meeting held on March 22nd, 2023 be approved. All those in favor say aye or raise their hand for the screen. Opposed, if any, was carried. And then we have the first application. We've got 4 this evening in total, 1 land consent and then 3 minor variances. So for the first one, B0622 14 Elizabeth Street, we'll just wait a minute while Dilhara puts the rest of the people in the waiting room, and then we'll go through the first application, read the report, any public comments, staff report, and then we'll allow the applicant to speak. Adam, you got your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I submitted a motion this afternoon and didn't see it on the agenda, so I just want to make sure it's going to get discussed tonight.
Yeah, well, I was going to discuss it after the applications, if that's okay. We'll get through the public part of it first. Thanks. Okay, so the first one is 14 Elizabeth Street. Dilhara, you want to go through that one?
Yeah.
When you're ready?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is for an easement of part 1 on 14 Elizabeth Street, lot 343, in favor of the abutting lands, 18 Elizabeth Street, which is lot 344, for the use as a playground. This is an image of the site plan that was submitted, and the same was circulated in the notice. This is an image of the neighborhood for context. This is, these are the existing conditions of the site. And we received correspondence from these agencies, and there were no objections. However, there are some conditions, and I'll read those out now. That the applicant provide the secretary treasurer with deeds in triplicate for conveyance of the subject parcel, a registrable legal description of the subject parcel, together with a copy of the disposited reference plan, if applicable, for the issuance of the certificate of consent. That the final certificate fee payable to the town of Grimsby be submitted to the secretary treasurer. That all conditions of consent be fulfilled within 1 year from the date of the notice of decision pursuant to subsection 53(41) of the Planning Act, failing which this consent shall be deemed to be refused. And lastly, subsection 3 or 5 of section 50 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, shall apply to any subsequent conveyance or transaction involving the severed land. Yeah.
Is that it?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay, is the owner or the representative here that would like to speak? I think I saw Tim on there.
Yeah,
Tim,
we're
did you
here.
wish to add anything or comment on the staff reports or the circulated comments?
No, I just have to understand what those conditions are more in depth, but it sounds like I got time to work them out. So
All right, are there any members of the committee that would like to speak or ask questions about the application? No questions. Is there anyone in the members of the public that are on the screen here that have asked to speak at all? Talhara?
No.
No? Okay. If not, then do we have a motion with the attached conditions that were read previously? A mover and a seconder?
Chair, I'd like to speak to the motion.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see it. Sorry, Walter. I got to
no, it's
scroll
okay.
through my screen here. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. No, the one condition that identifies a 1 year time limit to fulfill the conditions, the act actually requires 2 years. So,
Okay, so noted. So that should be changed to say 2 on condition number 3.
thank you.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Carrying on then, do we have a mover and a seconder? Adam, moved by Adam, seconded by Dylan. Yeah, I'm going to read it. Just 2 seconds here. So resolve that consent application B0622 by Tim DeLong, Trail Ridge Montessori School regarding 14 Elizabeth Street, lot 343 for an easement of land shown as part 1 on the circulated sketch for continued school use in favor of the abutting lands 18 Elizabeth Street, lot 344, be approved with the conditions as follows. The applicant provide the secretary treasurer with deeds and triplicate for conveyance of the subject parcel, a registrable legal description of the subject parcel, together with a copy of the deposited reference plan if applicable for the issuance of the certificate of consent, and that a final certification fee be payable to the town of Grimsby be submitted to the secretary treasurer, that all conditions of consent be fulfilled within 2 years from the date of the notice of decision pursuant to section 53(41) of the Planning Act, failing which this consent shall be deemed to be refused, and subsection 3 or 5 of section 50 of the Planning Act RSO 1990 shall apply to any subsequent conveyance or transaction involving the severed land. Any further discussion on the motion or their conditions? All those in favor say aye or raise their hand as easier. Opposed, if any, was carried. So yes, Tim, it was approved subject to the appeal period, and then you do have 2 years to fulfill the conditions, which, as far as I can tell, appear to be pretty standard on all of them. But you can discuss it with Michaela or Dahara regarding any of the particulars if you have questions.
Yeah, when I get the committee of adjustment letter, I'll get those conditions on it. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, I'll work
right.
on those. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, guys.
Have a good evening.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, so the next
18 Murray.
application, sorry, is 18 Murray Street, A0623. Go ahead, Dahara, once you have everybody in.
Mhm. Yeah, so the purpose for the minor variance at 18 Murray Street is to facilitate the reconstruction of a front porch to permit a maximum front porch encroachment of 3.04 meters into the required yard, whereas a maximum encroachment of 1.5 meters is permitted into the required yard. And to permit a porch to encroach into the minimum required side yard of 1.8 meters by 0.1 meters, whereas no encroachment is permitted. And this is an image of the site plan that was submitted, circulated also in the notice. And this is an image of the neighborhood for context. These are the existing conditions of the site. And these are the proposed plans for the site. And we have no objections from the agencies, just a couple of conditions from Heritage, which I will read out. That the porch on 18 Murray Street be photo documented and that copies of the photos be provided to the town of Grimsby and the Grimsby Historic Society for their archives. And that viable material from the porch be salvaged and or offered to salvage companies to avoid high quality materials from going into the landfill. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Is the owner or their representative here would like to speak to the application or the report that we've heard? I'm looking for the person here. Sorry, give me a second. Is it Jenny?
Mhm.
Jenny, did you wish to add anything or comment or elaborate before we open it up?
No, it's pretty simple little addition.
Okay, and then you've heard the comments regarding the Heritage Advisory Committee recommendations?
Yeah, the photos, I heard them and then salvage them as much as material as we can.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good. I'll open it up to the committee members then. Dylan or Adam, did you have any questions or comments? No? Are there any members of the public that would like to speak to this application? Do you know if there's any in? No? None?
No.
None then. Do I have a motion with the reasons for the decision or to approve or deny? Adam, did you wish to make the motion? I'll have you outline the reasons.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion is resolved. The minor variance application A0623 by Jonathan and Jenny Carpio for 18 Murray Street to permit a maximum front porch encroachment of 3.04 meters into the required yard, whereas a maximum encroachment of 1.5 meters is permitted into the required yard. To permit a porch encroachment into the minimum required side yard of 1.8 meters, by 0.1 meters, whereas no encroachment is permitted, be approved with conditions. And the conditions are as stated. One, that the porch on 18 Murray Street be photo documented, and copies of the photos can be provided to the town of Grimsby and the Grimsby Historic Society for their archives. And two, that viable material from the porch be salvaged and or offered to salvage companies to avoid high quality materials from going into landfill.
And the reasons?
Yes, sorry. The variance is minor in nature. It meets the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and it's desirable for the subject lands.
Thank you. Seconder? Dylan, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye or raise your hand. Opposed, if any, was carried. So there is appeal period, Jenny, before it becomes final and binding. But other than that, it's approved.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, the next application is 233 Patton Street, A0923. Delhara?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so the purpose of the minor variance application for 233 Patton Street is to facilitate the construction of a detached garage, to extend an existing legal non-conforming residential use on subject lands, and to permit an eaves overhang of 0.46 meters into required yard, whereas 0.25 meters is permitted. And this is an image of the site plan that was submitted. It was also circulated in the notice. This is an image of the neighborhood for context. These are the existing conditions of the site. And this is the proposed plans for the site. And no objections or conditions have been provided by any of these agencies. And that's all I've got for that application.
Okay, thank you. Is the owner or the representative here this evening that would like to speak?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes.
Yeah, nothing really to add. Pretty straightforward in terms of what we're looking to do.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, Adam or Dylan, any questions or comments? None? Is there any members of the public that would like to speak to this application?
No.
No, none? All right, then do I have a motion? If you want to read the motion and the reasons for the decision, either way. Dylan, thank you. Go ahead.
Be it resolved that minor variance be it resolved that minor variance application A09-23 by Christopher Hawkins and Cassidy Stafford for 233 Patton Street to extend an existing legal non-conforming residential use on the subject lands, permit an eaves overhang of 0.46 meters into the required yard, whereas 0.25 meters is permitted, be approved. The variance is minor in nature and is appropriate for the development of the subject lands. The variance does meet the intent of the zoning bylaw and the official plan.
Thank you. Seconder? Adam, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye or raise their hand. Opposed, if any, was carried. Thank you. So it was approved subject to the 20-day appeal period before it becomes final. Thank you for attending this evening.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night. Okay, the last application then is A0522 349 Book Road.
Thank you. Okay, so the purpose of this application is to facilitate the construction of a single detached dwelling, to permit a minimum interior side yard of 0.94 meters, whereas 1.8 meters is required, to permit a minimum front yard of 5.8 meters, whereas 8.13 meters is required, and to permit a lot coverage of 26.11%, whereas 15% is permitted. And this is an image of the site plan that was submitted. It was circulated on the notice as well. This is an image of the neighborhood for context, and the highlighted portion is the unnumbered lot in question. These are the existing existing conditions of the site. And this is what is proposed for the site. And finally, a couple of agencies had some conditions, Public Works and Canadian National Railway. And I will now read those conditions. That a servicing plan be submitted as part of the minor variance application. That a tree preservation plan be submitted to Niagara Region for review and approval at the building permit stage that indicates any trees that need to be removed and appropriate tree protection fencing to protect the woodland on and 64D 1702 MB 230026, April 14, 2023, page 4 of 5, adjacent to the property. The tree preservation plan should be prepared in accordance with the region's woodland conservation bylaw, bylaw 2079. That a written legal undertaking be provided by the owner agreeing to incorporate appropriate noise mitigation measures or devices during the design and construction of the new dwelling, consisting of double-paned windows, an exterior brick facade, central air conditioning system, and solid board-on-board fencing along the south and west lot lines. That the owner be advised of the following advisory clause. Should deeply buried archaeological remains or resources be found during construction activities, all activities impacting archaeological resources must cease immediately, and the proponent must notify the Archaeology Programs Unit of the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism and contact a licensed archaeologist to carry out an archaeological assessment in accordance with the Ontario Heritage Act and the standards and guidelines for consultant archaeologists. In the event that human remains are encountered during construction, all activities must cease immediately, and the local police, as well as the Cemeteries Regulation Unit of the Ministry of Government and Consumer Services, must be contacted. In situations where human remains are associated with archaeological resources, the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism should also be notified to ensure that the site is not subject to unlicensed alterations, which would be a contravention of the Ontario Heritage Act. The owner shall be required to grant CN an environmental easement for operational noise and vibration emissions registered against the subject property in favor of Canadian National. The following clause should be inserted in all development agreements, offers to purchase, and agreements of purchase and sale or lease of each dwelling unit within 300 meters of the railway right-of-way. Warning. Canadian National Railway Company or its assigns or successors in interest has or have a rights of way within 300 meters from the lands the subject hereof. There may be alterations to or expansions of the railway facilities on such rights of way in the future, including the possibility that the railway or its assigns or successors, as aforesaid, may expand its operations, which expansion may affect the living environment of the residents in the vicinity, notwithstanding the inclusion of any noise and vibration attenuating measures in the design of the development and individual dwellings. CNR will not be responsible for any complaints or claims arising from use of such facilities and operations on, over, or under the aforesaid rights of way. And finally, the implementation of the following mitigation measures in the dwelling design and construction. forced air ventilation systems with central air conditioning, acoustically upgraded windows meeting the minimum requirements of the Ontario Building Code and providing a maximum 35 dBA indoor limit for bedrooms and 40 dBA for living rooms, locating noise-sensitive rooms away from the railway site. That's all from me.
Thank you. Is the owner or their representative here who would like to speak to the
Yes,
application?
I'm here.
Ashweek?
So good evening, Mr. Chair and the committee members, myself Ashweek Chabra, and I'm the designer for this house. So as you know, like we already have these conditions pending from CNR and Public Work Departments, which we have basically resolved by now. So the drawing already indicate all the noise mitigation measures, and we have provided the undertaking to CNR that we will comply to all their conditions. And similarly with Public Work Departments, we have submitted the site servicing plan already. And we are waiting for their confirmation to let us know like if it's okay with them or not. And similarly, as you know, the variances which we have as the site is in low density is a residential area and subjected to policy delineated in section 3.4.2. So the requested variances do not vary from section 3.4.2.3 of the Planning Act. As the lot coverage is compact, like we have when we went to the neighborhood, our lot coverage is compatible with adjacent property and maintain the overall character of the neighborhood. And as our land is zoned as RD3, but the size of the lot is 9 meter by 38 meter, which is comparatively smaller to the adjacent properties. So that's why we have these variances as we want to build, and we have the lot is bisected by a water course too, which is currently in the middle of the lot. So that's why we have to build the house and like we were not able to comply the front setbacks of the property. So we have to go with 5.8 meter for the front setback. Similarly, for the lot coverage, we are in between in between 18 to 31%. There are like the neighboring houses are also like the lot coverage is 18 to 31%, which is like 348, 350, 352 and 354 Book Road. So we will like to go for the request you for the minor variance to be approved for under the Planning Act.
Okay, thank you. And then you're aware of the conditions that they're recommending. You said you have addressed most of them, but they would still be attached as conditions if it were to be approved.
Yes.
You're okay with that?
Yes, we are.
Or you
okay with
understand,
that.
yeah? Okay. So I just had a question too, maybe staff can answer. I know there was some discussion and there's an attachment in the original package that was sent out regarding the floodplain and the regulated water course, but can somebody maybe explain that what's happened since? Walter?
Yeah, thank you through you, Chair. We did get correspondence from the Conservation Authority. There is a regulated layer over the mapping for this site, as there was previously a water course that ran through the site from the south side of Main Street all the way up to Lake Ontario. This water course has, I'm not sure exactly when, but has been relocated to a storm sewer in Book Road. So the water course is no longer a water course that would normally be regulated by the Conservation Authority. And they had since rescinded their concerns and objections, and they have no objection to the application.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Any questions or comments from the committee members? Dylan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess it's more of a comment, and maybe just to reconfirm the minor variance for the side yard setbacks from 1.8 meters to I think it's 9.4 meters.
Yes, it's 9.4.
It just, like, to me, I mean, I know that it's a smaller lot in width, and it seems like a very small amount of space for sort of future access, etc. So, I mean, but from what reading the report, and perhaps Walter, you can comment, it looks like that has been deemed acceptable by staff. I'm not going to question that. I would just want to make the comment that it seems very narrow on both sides, but I know that the lot is narrow and the house is narrow as well. So they're trying to maximize that. It just seems very tight on both sides. So again, maybe more of a comment. I'm just thinking of future access, etc.
Public Works staff have reviewed, through you, Chair, the Public Works staff have reviewed the lot grading plans, and I've had a discussion on Friday with the individual that did the review, and they're generally satisfied with the ability of the site and the side yards to transfer water runoff from the side yards to the rear and the front, where it will be conveyed off the site.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Dylan?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Adam?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just want to kind of echo Dylan's sentiments about the setbacks and that a minor variance on this size of lot. I mean, we always say about it's not a mathematical number, and I guess really it's a relational number in this case. And I think when you apply certain variances to a lot of this size, the effects does become more apparent. So that's one thing that I'm thinking about in regards to this application.
Thank you for those comments. Ashweek, do you have any comments? I know we're going to open up to the public, but have you spoken to that neighbor immediately to the north? Because they're the ones that would be most affected.
Actually, Mr. Chair, we have already provided the site servicing plan for the property, and we have demonstrated that it's enough space during the maintenance to do the maintenance.
But have you heard from that neighbor? Have you had discussions with that neighbor in terms of the setback itself? Never mind the water runoff, but I'm just talking about because it's coming, like it's going from 1.8 meters required to 0.94, so almost in half the setback.
Actually, we didn't have any discussion with the neighbor, but we will definitely, if they have concern with it, we will discuss with them and make sure our property is accessible to them in case of they have to do any maintenance on their side.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this matter? Any members of the public? I saw a few on the list, so are they here? I'm just going to look through. Just give me a second here. Is it Frank or Karen DeRose? I'll start with them. Frank or Karen, did you wish to comment on the application?
No.
No? Okay. Next one. Madison Rose. I'm just going across my screen here. So
Hi,
Madison.
yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep. Could you please get your name and address for the record?
It's Madison Glacken, actually.
Okay.
GLACHAN. We are at 349 Book Road, so we are directly north of the proposed property.
Yep.
We do have definitely concerns regarding the nearly, very, very nearly half the clearance of 1.8 now 1.94, specifically regarding maintenance of the property. We do also have concerns in the impact of the neighborhood, sunlight, privacy views, the spacing, nearly all directly regarding these variances.
Okay, have you had any discussion with the applicant at all, or have you seen the plans before this? I mean, I think this was circulated, how long ago was that first request? A year ago, maybe?
Yeah, we have attended, as far as I'm aware of, all the variances hearings that there have been and have objected at each of these variance hearings.
Mm-hmm.
We have talked.
Sorry, I lost you there.
I'm sorry. We had talked to the builders originally before there was any of variance hearing. They had come to the property. But at that point, there was not much known about what was being proposed, is my understanding.
Okay, do you know what your setback is by any chance on that side? I'm just looking for some material here.
No, I don't off the top of my head.
Mr. Chair, would it be possible, was there an aerial view by chance to put back up?
There is a survey in the package too, actually, of the subject, and it shows the property at 349.
My apologies.
Do you want to share it for a second, Dilhara? Just bear with us here for a second.
So that's the aerial view.
Do you have the slide with the survey that shows the subject proposed dwelling and then the outline of the adjacent one at 3 foot? That's the one, yeah. I don't know if you can zoom in on that. Does that help, Dylan?
Yes, thank you.
So there's a variance request on both sides, if I'm not mistaken, right? Oops.
Sorry.
You had it there for the overview survey.
Oh,
There we go. Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's not showing up yet.
so Mr. Chair, we have like 5 feet 2 inches from the neighboring house
There,
to the
this one.
property line.
Yep.
And then we have like 3 feet from the property line to our proposed dwelling. So it's 8 feet in total.
Right. So, but it's split over two sides, two halves.
It's like 5 feet from the neighboring property to the lot line, and then from our property is like.
Oh, I
40.
see what you mean. Yeah, you've added
Yeah.
their setback. Yeah. I'm just curious how this lot was created. It must be an old lot of record, or is a remnant of something. It's pretty substandard for an older neighborhood. Did you have any further questions or comments, Madison?
It was our understanding that the lot was severed for the advertising tower. At least that is what we were made aware of, that it wasn't severed for a property. It was just the access to the advertising tower that
Well,
remains.
that's what I saw back there. Yeah, I remember seeing that years and years ago, and I saw the remnants of it there, that kind of spray painted orange or something
Yes,
in the
that's
back across the ravine or across the creek, or former creek, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments from members of the public? Gonna bear with me here. My screen only shows a few people. Terry Tulsma. Terry, did you wish to comment at all?
I did. I'm across the street.
Address?
And I'm across the street from the proposed build. And I
What's
don't
your
know.
address? Sorry, I just need to.
Sorry about that. Mr. Chair, I'm at 350 Book Road.
350. Okay, thanks.
You know, to the mind's eye, anyone driving by here would look at this lot and say, this is not meant to be developed upon. Like, this is kind of shambolic, really. And to make things worse by coming right basically over top of the neighbor's house. And they, after all these months, they haven't spoken with them at all. Like, I think that says a lot. They know that this is a push. Like 0.9 meters, you can hardly put a wheelbarrow around the side of the guy's house. So, I mean, I don't know if there's anything legally wrong with what's going on, but morally, I just got a big problem with it. Like that back corner, there is no way anyone should be building a house there, and they're making matters worse by building it right on top of the existing house. So it does not, in my opinion, fit with the residents. Like it does not fit in. So, I mean, I just want to make, my point stand. Like this is not good for the neighborhood.
Okay, thanks for those comments. I saw another number. It's a phone number. Starts with 647. And then there's an iPhone. No, iPhone is ours, right?
I don't know who iPhone is.
No.
Okay, what about 647 on the screen? Is that anybody?
I don't know.
No, you only have two then? I just want to make sure we had.
I think all three is.
Right, yeah, okay. Thank you. Any other further questions or comments from the committee? Oh, sorry, now I see your hands up. I'll start with Dylan and then Madison. Go ahead, Dylan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the applicant, can you tell me on the side of the house that would be sort of overlooking the neighbor's yard? I don't think we had that I don't think that there was that sort of level of, I don't think there was that, there was a diagram of that in the package. And if there is, I apologize, but what is on that side of the dwelling that would be close, sort of that, to the neighbors? Is it mainly a solid wall? Is it like windows upstairs and downstairs?
There is a set of drawings in the package, Dylan, actually.
Is there? Sorry,
yeah, full floor plans and cross or elevations.
Sorry, I couldn't find them.
So we have one stair on the second floor. We have one window in the stairs, and we have one small window in the washroom. And on the main floor, we have 3 windows that side. So if we can remove the windows if you want, we can
No, I sorry. I now found them. Sorry, They were that. Yeah, I apologize for the question. I just wanted to have some kind of context of what was on that side of the house that the neighbor would see. Thank you.
That would be the north elevation. Adam?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to throw a question out to the various members of the public, and I guess anyone can chime in on this one, but our official plan in considering stable residential neighborhoods underscores the importance of compatibility. So I'm wondering how they feel, whether this house, now that they've seen the design and know the constraints of the lot, how they feel, whether it's compatible or not, in their opinion.
Madison, go ahead. You had your hand up. Oh, you disappeared.
Yep, sorry, I just saw that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we do oppose the building in general overall, finding that it does create an overuse of the existing lot. Just kind of echoing what Mr. Tolsma has said as well. We do find it a little bit undesirable for the character of the neighborhood. I just find that it does kind of erode the aesthetic of the streetscape in general.
Like, what if it was capped at a 1-story because of the size? It seems to be overbearing to your property because of the setback. I know it's a substandard lot. It almost, you're right. It makes sense now that it was a billboard access, and wasn't really meant to be a single family lot. But I would agree. I mean, that's a pretty tall, if you look at the side elevations on the north side, that's 30 feet in the air from the roof line right down and only 2 feet away from your property line. So that's pretty overbearing, I would say. I would have to agree. I don't know if there's a way to shift it complete. Is it MTO lands to the south? Do you know? Adjacent to you on the south, Ashweek?
Is it? Oh, sorry.
Yes, we have MTO land on the side, and the other side we have overall 3.94 meters setback from our lot line, and then we have like 1.8 meters more to the neighboring lot. And with the design, we are basically making like a contemporary house, which is like even our like the size of the house is pretty small as compared to the neighboring houses. We are only like 720 square feet on each floor.
Have you thought about approaching MTO to buy some additional lands there? I mean, they've got their highway widened already, and it seems like they've got quite a bunch of surplus land in there. It's one option. Maybe you could probably double the size of that lot. I can't remember the topography. I mean, it's not an open creek anymore anyway. So I just don't think this was meant to be a single family home property, like a 30 by whatever it was, 30 by 38 meter, whatever that is in feet. 120 feet by 30. I mean, that's pretty narrow given the constraints of the site. So I'm just wondering if that might be an option. We can't force you to, but I think just the way it's proposed, it's a very shoehorn-like development here. And I can kind of empathize with the neighbors on that shear wall that's going to be right up against them, 30 feet in the air on the south side of their house. So I would kind of agree with their comments.
So, but 30 feet by 100 feet is like 120 feet is like a pretty decent sized lot. And if you see, like even in the RD5 zoning, we have like most of the lot sizes are similar to that.
Yeah, I agree, but it's typically in a planned subdivision where all the lots are 30 feet and they're all the same and they're all 2 stories and they're all kind of designed that way from a builder, right? But when you try to put one in an existing neighborhood that's got probably 60-foot lots or more, and they're all 1 story or smaller, that's what makes this difficult, right? It's when you come in after the fact and try to put it in. Those are just some comments, but Adam?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I looked at this property. And under MPAC, I kind of agree with their assessment, and it considers this actually unbuildable land. So, like I say, I don't always agree with MPAC, but in this case, this is the way I'm feeling.
I saw another hand up. Sorry, Ashweek, go ahead.
You want to say?
Dear Chair, my name is Selim Afroz. I'm also a I'm also a civil engineer. So during the development phase, sir, during the planning, we talked to city and municipality about the lot size. And then also, if you see the the planner report, the planner report also he also actually accept our proposal with context to the lot size. And I know, sir, this is a kind of a smaller size comparing to the other lot of this neighborhood. We have, sir, so far we have met all the criteria, whatever the municipality, public works, CN, events or MTO department they are asking. We met everything. Moreover, sir, I can tell you one thing, like the house we are proposing right now, it will not make any impact with regards to any light issues or excess issues in between our property to the neighbor property. We also submit a maintenance and accessible plan in between our property to the neighbor property. We submitted to the municipality already. So this plan we already submitted, and then I know, sir, this is a smaller lot, but our landowner, he bought the lot and he knows this is a smaller lot, and municipality also severed the lot as a smaller lot. So we actually request all of the members to consider these things and give us an opportunity to make a house here. Like even I can say, sir, don't take it. Otherwise, I live in a smaller lot in Toronto. My lot size is like 25 by 120. So just like I'm requesting all of the team members. Also, I will talk to the neighbor people, all of the neighbors, so that from my lot or from our construction, it will not make any impact of that neighborhood or any impact of their environmental or light issue. I'll make sure that one. Also, I will consider the privacy. If they have any issue of the privacy, I'll reduce the window of my proposal.
Okay, thank you. I see a few more hands up. I'll go to Adam for a sec and then to Terry.
Actually, I'll yield to Mr. Thompson. I think he has.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I didn't see that in order. Terry?
I just wanted to let the record, Mr. Chairman, let the record show that the person who just spoke acknowledged that this property was so small and that it doesn't really belong on the property. He said it himself. So he actually kind of is in lockstep with what we think. We don't think that that type of dwelling belongs there.
Okay, so noted. Madison? Sorry, Adam, I'm going to go to that.
Just saying that the property, just because I do understand that what they're saying is that, you know, there's lots of small lots out there, but I think it was you, Mr. Chair, who had said these are lots planned synchronized in that way that are developed in neighborhoods where they are planned to have, you know, multiple smaller lots. I just don't think it fits within our neighborhood and the larger size lots that we have.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's to the neighbor to the north. I guess it's Ms. Rose. I just want to ask the question. There's a lot of discussion in the regional comments and the original NPCA comments about floodplain and sort of flooding and water courses, and I believe a wood lot or something. There was a lot of it's based upon the request for a tree preservation plan. So I'm just wondering if you can comment about, is there any, what's your on the ground experience in terms of flooding or water?
Sure. So I will say we do get flooding at the back of our property, on the south side there, which is where the lot is proposed. The back corner of our property, there's a large area that does tend to flood with heavy rainfall.
Now, would that have changed with the channelization or the moving the creek into an underground culvert under Book Road, as planning staff allude to? I mean, public or NPCA rescinded their comment. So originally they looked at the overhead map and said, yeah, there's a floodplain or there's a valley here, a creekway, but now we understand it's been channelized. So would that still be the case?
I was a little surprised to hear that, because there does still tend to be some, not major, but there does tend to be flooding down just with heavy rainfall. But I can't really speak to anything other than just our personal experience.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'm just scrolling through here. Give me a second. Ashweek, one more time, and then we're going to call for a vote. Go ahead.
Dear Chair, yes, during the just last month with the public service department, they have a request that like we have to keep open the channel, and we accept it. We said okay, we accept it. So I believe, sir, dear Chair, and we have proposed the berm alongside our neighboring property in our property, so that no water can impact from our property to their property. If you, sir, if you guys agree, and then I can provide a retaining wall alongside my property line, so that no water can go from my property to their property. And moreover, sir, our channel is open, so I believe there is no water impact on the neighboring property. So that is my adding comments, sir, with regards to this.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
even that channel, like the drain, is not working, and public work departments have a plan to make it redundant.
Make it which? Sorry.
Like they want to demolish it later on. That's why they told us to keep it open.
Okay, that's the one on 349 at their backyard. The existing, it
Yes,
shows on the
yes.
survey as existing storm water drain, and then there's another one called
Yes.
easement.
Yeah, easement.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, but I empathize with the owners next door. I mean, the issue here is that not only the creek so much as the proximity that you're creating a 2-story plus a roof line right next to a small 1-story frame dwelling, and because of the size, small size of the lot, you're coming very close to that side. So, like I said, it doesn't look too good in terms of the support from the committee, but if there was you've got an opportunity to potentially, I'm not saying they would sell it, but I do a lot of property appraisals for them for excess land. You could try approaching MTO and see if you can pick up another 30 feet of frontage and double the size of the lot. And that would alleviate the distance from 349, because then you wouldn't need that side yard variance. I don't have a problem with the front yard variance personally, because I think it's the end of Book Road. It doesn't affect anybody's street view so much as the side yard does on 349. That's just my opinion. I mean, it's just a shot. I get it. You bought a substandard lot, and I see the sales history of it. I empathize with you, but I think it's trying to wedge something in that doesn't belong. And like I said before, I agree, there's lots of small lots, but they're usually in subdivisions or plans of subdivisions where they're all the same size and they all have similar houses. And the issue here is just trying to do it after the fact. So those are just my comments.
So I have a question again. One thing, if it's the impact of the height, can we do like a flat roof there and lower that impact of the height? And another thing is, with the neighboring property, can we make like the setback more, like 1.2 meter instead of 0.94 meter? And the other side, we can reduce the setback because it's like next to the MTO lands, and which is they are not even using as of now.
Well, that's one option, is to remove that entire variance, and then you have the right to build up to 1.8 meters to that side. They can't stop you from that side. But I don't know if you can fit that house in. And then, yes, you would have to move closer to the MTO, but they obviously didn't comment on this, and I can't see it being an issue, but you'd still be, that would be a good solution, actually, to move it that way, because you're not impacting anybody. And then to consider that, but then I would suggest a deferral to maybe redesign these plans rather than to vote on it and turn it down,
Yes,
leaving you no
great,
option,
Mr. Chair.
right?
Yeah.
So I know you've been here before, and I empathize with you. You're back again a year later, or almost a year later. But it's not an easy property to build on. Adam, you had your hand?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I was just about to say, because he was speaking about moving the variances and setbacks, and I just still think the constraint is the lot itself and its general layout. So whether you move things here or there, I really don't think it's going to make a difference.
Okay, I think we've heard enough in terms of acting on this application. If there's someone that Dylan or Adam would make a motion, if you could read the reasons for the motion and so on. Adam, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the motion would be resolve that minor variance A05-22 by sorry if I get the name incorrect, Naimo Lodi for the unnumbered lot directly adjacent and south to 349 Book Road to permit a minimum interior side yard of 0.94 meters, whereas 1.8 meters is required, to permit a minimum front yard of 5.8 meters, whereas 8.13 meters is required, to permit a lot coverage of 26.11%, whereas 15% is permitted, be refused. And the reasons for that is the variance does not meet the intent of the zoning bylaw and official plan. And to articulate that, I don't feel it's compatible with the adjacent properties, and it does not maintain, having a house there wouldn't maintain the character and image of the neighborhood. It does not maintain the general lot rhythm and lot coverage of adjacent detached homes. These variances take on greater significance with such a small lot. And due to the constraints of the lot and the variances, it represents an overbuilding of the lot. And next is the variance is not desirable for the development of the subject lands. It creates adverse effects such as overlook on the neighbors. changing the grading of the, we already know there's an issue with flooding according to the neighbor. So changing the grading could contribute more to that. And there's further environmental concerns in terms of the tree canopy, because I think, remember hearing at council meeting that the tree canopy in Grimsby is actually quite low. So this would actually be contributing to the issue. So for that reasons, the variances are not minor in nature, and all public input was considered as part of the decision.
Thank you. A seconder, Dylan?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I do second that and agree with the points that Adam has made, and that the motion should be refused. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor say aye. So that's the approval to, or sorry, the motion to refuse the variance. Okay, I'll just give Ashweek one more chance here before we call the final vote. Go ahead.
Sir, I have few reasons. So the drain which we have on the back, it's like redundant. So like it's not usable at all. So one thing is that like we should be allowed either to make the drain next to our property or fill up the land according to that. And another thing is like decision regarding the flooding should be based on a floodplain study rather than comments by the neighbor. And other thing is we will like to defer the meeting because we want to talk to the MTO. Maybe we can buy a little land from them, maybe like 10 to 20 feet, something like that from them. And other scenario is if they allow us like to be more closer to the MTO land rather than closer to the neighbor. And one more thing is if we are allowed to do a flat roof, we can even reduce the height of the building envelope more. So I will like to like defer this meeting until we find out with MTO and with the so that we can build fulfill the conditions for the committee.
Well, I'll defer to Adam and Dylan if they feel that's warranted to give the applicant an opportunity to come up with another design. However, I still feel that this application, there's no support for, as you heard. So you can always come back with, if you acquire another piece, for example, you could meet the bylaw with no request for variances.
And
so
what
there would
if
be no
we-
requirement. But the problem here is we don't like this plan. So us turning down this plan doesn't preclude you from going back, buying some more land off MTO, putting a house that fits and meets the bylaw in all respects. I mean, it might require some rezoning on the MTO land because I don't know what it's zoned, but you know, that's an option. So Adam, I'll just get, I think we've allowed enough discussion on it. So I'll just defer now to the committee themselves. Adam?
Yeah, I agree with your comments completely. We're dealing with the application and the lot as it is. Whether if they did acquire some more property in the future, I'm sure it'd have to actually come back as a separate application.
All right, then. So we have the motion and the seconder. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, if any? Was carried. So the application was refused. There is a 20-day appeal period before it becomes final and binding. Like I said, there are alternatives perhaps you could pursue as well on the property. So unfortunately, the committee did not feel these variances were merited support. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending this evening. Have a good evening. That's the regular agenda is now complete, and so the committee has a notice of motion to deal with now, but that's it for the applications themselves. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Walter?
Yes, with regard to the motion, the notice
yes,
was presented to, sorry, do I have my volume on?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, yeah. So the notice of motion was is not on the agenda, and it's our opinion that it shouldn't be discussed. Number one, because it's not on the agenda. And the reason the deadline for insertion of items on the agenda is Friday when the agenda is posted. The reason for that is to enable staff the opportunity to address the notice of motion if necessary. And we feel that the short time has not given us an opportunity to address it and to provide the committee with the necessary information to discuss it.
Adam?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. In general, parliamentary procedure motions can be brought up at any time. There's no actual, like I say, we can consider it immediately by waiving the rules and a 2/3 vote. The actual, saying staff should have the opportunity to comment. I do agree, but unfortunately, I believe this is going to be the last meeting of this term of the committee. I don't know if I will be returning, so there won't be a next meeting to actually hear that motion under this term of the committee. And yeah, this is something that I've just noticed over the years, and there's just needs to be more consistent flow of information to the committee. And so this is why I'm raising a motion now, because like I say, if I'm not going to be returning to the committee, even though I did reapply, I'd like to leave this committee in a better position than it was when I started.
Thank you for that. Walter?
Yeah, I respectfully disagree with the issue. The committee is the committee, regardless of what members are on the committee. If there's a need to discuss, and in terms of the notice of motion being brought forward at any time, and there's a couple of things I want to say. There's our procedural bylaw, and there's also a courtesy. Gives again the proposed motion makes comments that are that staff would like to address, and I believe we haven't had an opportunity to address this. So we feel that discussing the notice of motion at this time is inappropriate, and we'd like to have an opportunity to address the notice of motion prior to the committee discussing, so the committee has all the information before it.
Okay, thank you. Dylan, did you have any comments? Me personally, I did not see the notice of motion because I was at a funeral this afternoon. I literally it was brought to my attention 5 minutes before I opened the meeting here. So I kind of feel I'm at a disadvantage. I just quickly scanned it, and I would not feel comfortable discussing it until we've had at least a chance to look at it in more depth and then have staff comment, because I believe it deals with staff and flow of information. So I don't feel comfortable regardless of who's on the committee. I agree, Adam. I mean, we always want to leave the committee better than how we found it, but I think it's only fair that whether it's this same committee or the new committee, that they can still deal with it. It can still be put on the top of the agenda for the next meeting, even though you may or may not be here. We can still put it on the agenda. The committee or the committee itself, Committee of Adjustment, is still a running and standing committee. So there's no reason why we can't set the agenda for whoever is on that committee or who comprises that committee. So Dylan, did you have any comments? Did you see it?
I did, but not very. I did see it before the meeting, but not very long before the meeting. And I have been one that has asked questions about sort of the timing of materials, and I compared to other, boards that I have either been on or support, but I know that there's sort of a flow to these things and some tight timing, which I recognize. So while I think, this may be something that could be, improved or commented on, I'm not prepared tonight to sort of vote on it, because I would like perhaps some more discussion and staff's comments on it as well, so we have a balanced so we can have a balanced discussion and make the most informed decisions. So I'm not supporting what Adam has proposed, but at the same time, I just think we need a sort of more information and a fuller discussion, whether it's in again here at this existing committee or as we move forward.
Thank you. Adam?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would agree. Maybe if we're all back on the committee and once we're back up to full complement, maybe we get some wider opinions and other ideas on how to move this forward if that's the will of the committee.
Yeah, so noted. But I also think you have to remember as well, we're dealing with minor variances. I always like to keep that in perspective. As important as we think we are and so on, you also have to remember we're also dealing with things that are delaying the public on very usually minor things that really only impact the immediate neighbors. As you heard tonight, it was, the neighbor on the north, the neighbor across the road, and that's it. And the other ones had no circumstance. Sometimes we get bigger ones, and I think that's fair that, we either get ask for a deferral if it's like the Kemp on or Hemp on Kemp or something like that was much larger, but I also think they took advantage of a variance that should have been a rezoning. But I don't know, sometimes you think that you got to remember, keep perspective that it is a minor variance committee that we're dealing with, so usually they are minor in nature and only impact the neighbors. So as much as we can do to facilitate the quickly resolving the issue or the request, the better. So I get staff's perspective too. You've got all kinds of demands on them, and this is probably a low on the totem pole, so to speak. So Walter?
Yeah, sorry, thank you through you, Chair. And to conclude, staff would also ask for information that Member Mottershead has compiled in support of the proposed resolution.
Okay, Adam?
Yeah, actually, I can point out one example is the Book Road application. I requested the minor variance application itself, which is a standard reform required by law, would be in a public document, and it was never sent to me. And I believe that it's important that the committee have the same information on hand that staff is using to judge the application. I think that only speaks to giving applicants a fair hearing. And it really comes down to also, like I said before, timeliness, having the information. If you got 1 day to assess it, or you have 3 days, you may reach another decision on the information based on your actual time to evaluate it. So like I say, this is why I think it's important for the information that's supplied by applicants to reach the committee in a timely manner.
Okay, thank you. One more time, Walter, and then I think we'll defer it to the next meeting. Go ahead.
Yeah, specifically also, thank you through you, Chair, specifically this Book Road application. We did put forward, because there is personal information on the document itself. We did ask the appropriate people on staff whether or not it can be sent to Member Mottershead, and the response we received was that it cannot, and that certain procedures would have to be followed in order to provide that information to Member Mottershead.
Okay. Adam, I think one more chance, and then we're going to defer it by the sounds of it, to the next meeting and put it on the top of the agenda or the bottom of the agenda.
Yeah, I just, in regards to Mr. Basic's comments, I believe section 1.01, I could be wrong, of the Planning Act that says that any document that's required for any kind of planning application is a public document. So the document itself is public. I mean, if they had to redact a name or a phone number or something, I think that's fine, but otherwise the document should have been provided. And
yeah, that's correct. Sorry to interrupt, but there is a procedure that has to be followed in order to do that. So, and there's a Freedom of Information Act process that you're able to apply through to get that document.
But I can say in the early years of this term of the committee, we actually did receive all that. And importantly, because that document contains the permission to enter form.
That's correct. That's correct. And you can get a copy of the document, but unfortunately we received the request late and there wasn't an opportunity to provide you with it. And having it provided to you in the appropriate condition.
Okay, I think we're going to defer it till the next meeting, and we'll deal with that time with staff input as well at the time. So I'm going to call the meeting adjourned. If there's no other items of business on the agenda, then we'll adjourn. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
Thank
Good
you.
evening, everybody. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good
Recording
evening.
stopped.
Thank you.